Welcome to the Emerging Professional at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is leading innovation one case at a time. We have with us Ryan Reyes, a dynamic leader and an innovator with over 20 years of experience in the technology sector. As a CEO of Immediation, he has revolutionized the landscape of online case management platforms, tailoring solutions for arbitration centers globally. His career journey spans across leading product development, customer success, and strategic partnerships, showcasing his unparalleled expertise in building cross cultural relationships and driving impactful growth strategies. Beyond his professional endeavors, Ryan's vibrant personality shines through his passion for gymnastics, his love for learning Asian languages, and his knack for building meaningful connections. So it is an emotional moment for me and Ryan as we have been known each other through Workshare over a decade. So welcome, Ryan, to today's Coffee Conversation International episode.
Thank you, Amir. It's great to be here. I appreciate that very nice introduction. And I'm very happy to be able to see you after all these years.
Wow, me too, me too. So let me explain you the format and the flow. There are three rounds. The first round is professional, second round is personal round, but there is a rapid fire, the fun surprise round, for which you have
Okay.
to be witty, fun, and quick, and you will get a surprise gift. You have to earn it on the niche marketing.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Yeah, which will be autographed and sent to your place.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startup SMEs with world-class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question for your professional journey round, Ryan, how has the journey been till date?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Amir, because I think everyone has their own journey, right? Everyone's on a journey to somewhere. And for me personally, it's been, I wouldn't say linear, like there's a lot of twists and turns around the journey. And what I mean by that is sometimes I think like when you think things are going well, it's actually not that good. But on the flip side, when things don't turn out the way you expect, it's actually a very lucky. You're actually very lucky. And I think you just take every opportunity as it goes.
Wow. Okay. So, Ryan, in your past profiles, you have achieved a remarkable 100% customer renewal rate for 7 consecutive years. So, what's your secret to building long-lasting client relationships?
Yeah, Amir, I don't think there's like a secret. I think it's really common sense. I think, look, if I were to distill it into one thing, it's that people buy from people, and generally relationships are built over time. So what I try to do and what I think is very important is very basic, but I don't think like everyone does this. And it's basically do what you say, right? So if I say I'm going to do something, I generally do it. And you've known me for many years over Workshare, and you can pick like any customer out of my LinkedIn database, and they will just say the same thing, right? I think your reputation precedes you. I think there is no one secret. I think like you just have to do what you say, and everything else will take care of itself.
Wow. So, that was for the client side. You have had a remarkable relationship with your partners from different cultures and different time zones and different countries. So, how did you manage those cross-cultural relationships and made a lasting impression on them, which they remember you even after you are no longer of that their journey, and they still want to be have a conversation with you?
Yeah, it's very funny because, like, I think we were chatting before that we've never actually seen each other. We've never met face to face in person. I've never been to India, although I want to. But it feels like we've known each other for a very long time, right? I just have a feeling, and I know you have the same feeling, and I think it's mutual. And I think like I've always been like very international in my thinking. I've always been very collaborative. I think like my I know this is not the topic for it, but like I think my upbringing is also very different. Like I grew up in Indonesia. I went to international school, so I grew up already with a lot of cultures. And cultures really fascinate me. And I think that that translated into what I did for work as well. I mean, I know that I could tell you that like the secret is like just work hard and do the thing. But I do think at the end of the day, what I really tried to foster is I really wanted to build a community. I really wanted to build a good network. But more importantly, like I've always been a long-term player. I always think long-term. And I always think that more than anything else, rather than just the business and transactional and money stuff, I really want to focus on the relationship. And like you said, I, we've done business for a long time. I have a lot of contacts around Asia that are similar to you, and like they always ask me, "Oh, can we have coffee? Can we have lunch?" And it's like, and I don't do business with them anymore, but like they still want to see me, and we still talk. So it's just that was I really enjoy that. To me, out of anything else, all the deals we've done, everything, what I value the most are those long-lasting relationships that I've managed to keep, and people remember me for that.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's go to your next journey, being a speaker at prestigious conferences. What's your most cherished memory from presenting at global events, and why?
Yeah, there was this one time I remember very early in Workshare Day. So this was like 2009, 2010, like then, right? And there was one time we got a chance to speak in China, in Shanghai. First time in China, never been to China. It was amazing. And the deal was like, I wasn't supposed to speak, but it was supposed to be the VP of sales at the time was supposed to speak and chair the event and run the event. And I remember at that time, something happened. Something happened. The VP like left the organization and like there was this open spot and they just had to find someone to fill that spot or else we would lose it. And it just had to be me. So all of a sudden, like it was very interesting because but prior to that, I've done like Toastmasters for a very long time. So Toastmasters is like a speaking club where you get to learn how to talk. And I've chaired meetings then, and I've chaired some competitions then too, but not like a professional speaking engagement. But it was just one of those memorable things because like I honestly like going into it and chairing a conference where you have like I don't know 200 people. They don't speak English like very well, and you're talking through like a lapel, a mic, and there's someone at the back translating every word you're saying as well. So you're hearing it like in English and Chinese. I thought that was such a unique experience that I never experienced before, right? I felt like the people in the United Nations, they're the ones that talk through like they say something in some language and someone else interprets it. It felt like that. But look, hopefully they understood like everything I said. They seemed to laugh at all my jokes, which is good. But that was the most international, that was the most interesting experience I've ever experienced, like overseas talking at an event.
Wow, beautiful. Now let's come to your current journey. Uh, from customer success manager to becoming the CEO at Immediation. What got you excited to become the CEO of this young startup, which is pioneering online case management? And so tell us about this to take up this exciting role of leading a young legal tech startup.
So I think like there's two parts to this question. The first part is the transition from customer success to CEO, and the second question is like what is exciting about this company, right? So I'll answer it in two. I'll answer the first one first. So the customer success. So I think that with customer success, or even with like my previous role at Workshare, right? The good thing about that particular role and what I did in Workshare around account management, partner management, and everything is that you get to really talk to the customer and you really get to understand and build that connection. Like, I don't think there are many roles like that. And because I did that, I think I was able to transition fairly easily. Now, I didn't, not 100% easy, but fairly easily. I also think that like when you work in a small company, like Workshare or even Immediation, right? The title that you're given isn't necessarily the job role that you do every day, because as a small business, you tend to do a bit of everything. It's just the way it is, right? So I remember at Workshare when we were working together, like I would manage the partners, but then I would also help Andrew do the support calls. I would help finance chase the invoices. I would, do all these things. I would do the pre-sales. I would just, whatever had to be done, I just did, right? No question. Title didn't matter. Whatever like Andrew and I or Sean needed, we just did. So I think that that experience like translated very well with what I'm doing now. Because like when I went into customer success, although my title was customer success was actually part of the product management team. And what I didn't get in Workshare was that I didn't understand how to build a product. And in the mediation, I did. I knew how to run a dev team. I knew how to do the sprint planning because I learned from like a lot of smart people, like as well. How to do Q&A, how to do a storyboard. All these things were very foreign to me. That was the missing piece I didn't get from Workshare. Workshare was pure sales, marketing, and channels, right? And then when I went to CEO, like all these things like just came together. Like I knew all of a sudden how to run the dev team. I knew how to do the marketing. I knew how to do the sales. But most importantly, I knew how to connect to the customer, and I knew how to build alliances across the region, which is one thing that like I think is my, I wouldn't say key strengths, but something that's very natural to me. And just connecting with people like you, like, and we're feeling like we're talking to an audience of one. So that was my transition. And when I saw the opening, like I said, my life is a series of twists and turns. I believe that like opportunity done well leads to other opportunity. And I think that whatever is presented to you might not be perfect, but if people know that you can do what is presented to you and you can do it well, they will remember it and they will give you something else bigger. Like if you can handle something small, it will become bigger and bigger as well. So that's what I believe. And that's what I thought, like, that's what geared me towards entering CEO. I thought, I don't know everything. I don't claim to be an expert. There's a lot of smart people around me. I have to ask for advice, but like, I think like I have the foundation to do it, right? And I don't doubt myself. And I think success is an inside game. So that was the CEO role. I think with this particular market specifically, so the alternative dispute market is very interesting as well, because I think that look, all across the world, right? You have disputes going on every day. It could be a commercial dispute, or it could be a dispute like with your neighbor or with your landlord, or it could be like a couple like breaking up, like a marriage breakup, right? So there's disputes all the time, all the time. I think that like the way the system works today, like whenever there's a dispute, people often think about, oh, we should call a lawyer. Like, let's call a lawyer, let's call a law firm, let's call whoever to sort it out, right? And yes, there's a time and place for that, and there's a time and place to go through the court system. But as you know, like the Indian court system or any other court system around the world, it's all the same. They're all backlogged. There's too many things. Like you could wait forever, right? And if you're just like a normal person, well, maybe you're not normal, I'm normal, a normal person like me, right? You don't have forever, and you don't have like an endless bank account where you can like pay lawyers, really. And even lawyers, right? Like I feel like they want to also resolve disputes. They want to find an easier way, and an easier way that people don't realize, and a more simple way is like through mediation and arbitration. And I think this is a really growing trend around the world because you see a lot of legislation in India, for example, like they're trying to open up the judicial system to promote ADR as a way to resolve disputes. In Spain, it's the same. I think in Australia, like people are realizing that, yeah, we have a problem, but like, you know, we don't have to go through the normal system. There's another way to resolve disputes. And I think that, you know, there are so many players in the alternative dispute ecosystem, not just in mediation. I'm talking about people who like help train mediators, people who provide specialized accreditation for mediators, people who do various things, but there is no like one consistent platform, no ecosystem that brings everything together. And really that excites me because that is what I'm trying to do, right? Because I'm trying to leverage all these people that I know in that do point solutions that all want the same mission. Like they all want to like go to the moon. That's the mission, right? But like a spaceship, they all have different components of the spacecraft that no one has figured out how to go to the moon successfully. And I think my job and like the experience I've gained out of working with Workshare, with resellers like you, is how to assemble this spaceship so that I can put like, you can call it an AI rocket underneath it or an afterburner underneath it and make everyone go to the moon. So that at the end of the day, I want people to be able to settle their disputes in a very amicable, simple way, you know, that will alleviate the court system for more important things. And that's what excites me. That's what drives me. That's why I come to mediation. And that's what, you know, we're trying to build.
Oh, beautiful. So Ryan, what are your plans? 1 year for 1 year and 3 year plans for Immediation.
So good question. 3 years is very far, but I'll tell you roughly what the plan is. So year one, right? Year one, I think, so Immediation in the past, you know, we've entered so many different markets, we've done so many different things. And I think the first year, I want to consolidate everything and I want to focus on Australia. Because like it's my home market, like I understand it the most. Not that I'm not going to focus on India and like US and everything, but at least the first 6 months, I just need to bring it down to its bare minimum and I need to focus on Australia. And I need to really focus on how, like I said, to build and assemble this rocket spacecraft. So I have an idea how to build an ecosystem. We have a wonderful platform. Like it was, I reckon 5 million went into building this case management platform for mediators. It looks beautiful. Everyone I've showed it to says this platform looks amazing. But we haven't like yet struck the chord on how to do the sales and marketing. And that is my job, right? I need to figure out how to take what we built, how to assemble a network of other people who play in this space, and how to package it so that it appeals to both like the mediators, the arbitrators, the institutions, and also how to attract the people looking for these services. And that's goal one. So just focus on that, really like do invest in R&D. You know, we're doing like some great stuff around AI as well. And we're really just trying to focus on our key markets and key messaging. In 3 years, I'd like to expand this like globally, right? I do think like we are working with a potential customer in India, like for example, and they want to do the same thing, like they want to build an arbitration center. I think the Indian market is very big for legal services, as you know, it's your market. And I do think that, you know, there is demand for it. And there's like, even like, I can't remember, there's this place in India, it's called like a city, like Gift City, Gift. Anyway, it's like a special economic city, right? They're trying to attract foreign direct investment into the city. And what better way to attract foreign direct investment than knowing that if I have a problem, like I can arbitrate properly. And I think that is interesting, right? So there's many things like that around the world. I think the US market is the biggest one. Different, like the dynamics are different, the way the arbitration works, the way they're structured is different, the accreditation is different. We do have we have an amazing customer in New York that is like one of the oldest or most established, I wouldn't say oldest, most established like arbitral center in the US and at least what is this, the East Coast, right? And they've been around like 40 years. I'm like, whoa, you guys have been around for a long time. And we're working with them to AI enable their panelists and AI enable their intake so that companies or lawyers or counsel can easily file disputes with them. Because like, if we can make that process easy, then we can make the customer successful. Then in turn, we will be successful too. So that, without giving too much, like that is my 3-year plan, right? I want to be able to take what we've learned in this market in Australia, and I want to export that to the world. And I think there are many markets out there that can really benefit from like what we are trying to do. And more importantly, I think there are a lot of people out there that can really benefit from what we are trying to achieve. And what we're doing is we're trying to make dispute resolution simple. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I think it can be simple.
Wow, that was beautiful. So, Ryan, how do you manage to balance strategy, innovation, and execution in a fast-paced legal tech startup like Immediation?
Yeah, good question, Amir. I like innovation, right? Innovation, let's start there. Like innovation means different things to different people. So innovation to me doesn't mean like creating the new iPod or creating the new iPhone or things like that. Like when people think of innovation, they always think there's some like breakthrough product, right? I don't believe that's the case for most people, and certainly not the case for mediation. When I think of innovation, like what I'm trying to do is wake up every day and know by the end of the day, I was a little bit better than yesterday. That's innovation. So I'm talking about like little incremental changes. So maybe like incremental changes to like the marketing, like maybe like change some words in the campaign, see what that looks like. Maybe, you know, innovation, like I wake up and I go, oh, how can I make this easier for my customer? Like the interface. And I go, okay, let's move this button here. Let's do this. Let's add this feature. Or it's like, oh, how can I help my reseller? Or how can what other company can I partner with that adds value to the customer, right? So that's how I think of innovation. So The balancing it is very tricky. I think like we spoke no, we didn't speak about this, but like startup and non-startup is two different things. Because like when you're a startup, like you can do things very fast. That's a good thing, right? So you don't have a lot of people to report to, whatever you think you can release to market relatively fast. The problem with a startup is that obviously your resources are limited. You don't have like you're not Apple Computer. You don't have $1 billion in your bank account. You can't acquire anyone. You just have to use what you got, right? And balancing it is very tricky. I don't think that there is like one thing that I do. I always try to have the end user, the customer in mind as number one. And I always try to think about what are they trying to solve? What can I do to make their life easier, right? Because like I think that I I don't know like if you listen to this podcast, like it's called the Huberman Lab, and on this podcast he interviewed like a chess child prodigy, like he was a chess master at a child as a child. I think his name is Josh Waitzkin, and basically he asked him like, what differentiates a grandmaster chess player from just an ordinary good player? And he goes, you know, a good chess player like will often when they come to a chess game, and business is like chess and strategy is like chess, right? You're trying to move the pieces. A good chess player, like when they see the board, they have like 50 different things in their head that they can do, right? They've already sequenced 50 different combinations on this board, right? Now, a grandmaster, the grandmaster chess player will only try to decide between two, right? Because he knows that if he can make the first two moves correctly, then he can potentially set himself up to win the game. While if you're thinking like 50 different moves, like if you get move one and two wrong, you're it doesn't matter. Like you lost because like you're not properly set up. So that's what I try to think when I balance like strategy, execution, and innovation, right? Because obviously strategy without execution is nothing, but and innovation as well is like incrementally just getting better. So I always think of given what I have, given who I know, given what the customer wants, what are the two moves that I can do right now to set us up into the future? And that's how I balance, innovation, strategy, and execution.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Ryan, how has the leadership style evolved over the years?
The leadership. So I've always been one that doesn't really, not that I think title is not important. Like I think title is important so people know externally who to talk to, right? And I think over time, like my leadership has also evolved. I think that, in the beginning, when you're starting out with your career, like you often lack confidence, and then you kind of like you look at your manager or your boss or even some of the leaders in your organization, and then you try to kind of mimic them a little bit, right? So I tried like during my formative years to try to I was very lucky. I had some very good people I work with. I'm not just talking about like people who manage me, like even like people who work next to me, right? Like Andrew Lee, for example. You know Andrew. So he was very good at talking to customers, and every time you talk to him, like he made you feel at ease. And I learned a lot how to manage customers just listening to Andrew. I think that's kind of how my leadership style morphed over time, right? I think that it's just an amalgamation of different things. And I really think, look, I really think like, and I know that like this is a corporate audience, and you might edit this out, but I really think that like sometimes in the corporate world, like you're really into your business card, right? But my leadership style is I believe that action is more powerful than words. I want like you to know, Amir, like even back in the workshare days, that as I said, if I say I'm going to do something, then I do it. To me, that is more important. That shows leadership. That shows leadership that I can commit. That shows leadership that that you are comfortable and trust me, and it shows leadership that that I just do what I say. And I think that is really my style. I think there's nothing that I will tell you to do that I won't do myself. I'm very happy to roll my sleeves and do the dirty work. Like I said, I I can do support calls. I can do pre-sale. I don't really care. Whatever needs to be done, I just do. And I think actions speak louder than words. And that's what I try to espouse in my own leadership.
Wow, beautiful. So, Ryan, with over 2 decades experience in technology, how do you foresee emerging technology transforming the legal tech industry globally?
I think that like we're on the verge of AI. I think that how legal tech has adopted AI and where it's actually at today, like what you can actually do today, is uh, like AI might be over here and legal tech has only adopted like a little bit or like a little bit behind, right? Like they're not exactly the leaders. I think they're a bit laggards in due respect, right? Like we talked about like how AI, moves so fast and you have like DeepSeek and everyone that just threw everyone off, right? And you have all these neat things that I think in AI that can make the legal process a lot simpler and a lot more efficient. And I'm sure you have other guests in this podcast that have discussed all that, right? So I think that where I'm talking future here, and I think where we can actually go is around like Web3 technology. I think like Web3 as in blockchain, as in crypto, as in the metaverse, we've just really scratched the surface around that. So like to give you an example, right? I think smart contracts, like if I was doing business with you in India and like we had a contract together, like imagine if like we can execute that contract and money just comes out of your bank account into mine or vice versa via crypto exchange. And then no one can refute that contract because it's blockchain. So it is a true contract, right? So things like that, I think we've just scratched the surface. Metaverse, for example. I think I know that all like Facebook and Google are doing stuff in the metaverse, and I think wow, the world of alternative dispute resolution or even legal services in the metaverse. I think that is something because I can tell you like when people have disputes, right, they're very emotional. Like it's very hard. Like most people do not want to go to court or they do not want to go to mediation. So what if we take that out and do this in the metaverse and like at least like all that emotional stuff is gone. I mean, you could have avatars and they do certain things, right? But I'm not looking at you directly. You're not looking at me directly, and we can just we can not remove it entirely, but we can lower the emotional part of this dispute, right? I think there's a lot of things around that. I think like the world has a lot to go in terms of regulation, and I think there's a lot of regulation now around AI and with different countries, right? And I think in order for the future, I think legal tech can do with Web3 requires like regulation and cooperation with governments around the world. But I think this is where it's going, right? I'm very excited because I think that yes, we can conquer like the online web, you know, world as it is today, but like there is a new world in the horizon. And I think we can use a lot of these tools, you know, in the context of legal to again make things a lot simpler and to just make a lot of things efficient. And that's where I think like the future lies.
Beautiful. So my last question, Ryan, what's one piece of advice you would give to aspiring professionals looking to make an impact in the tech industry?
I think no one's career goes in a straight line, right? Like when we're 20 years old, like I read somewhere, like we all want to become millionaires or billionaires and we all want to be Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like that's people want to go to tech industry, they think they can do that, right? And then they think that like their career is gonna go like this, like it's just gonna go smooth. But in reality, like life goes like this, up, down, left, right. Like you don't know where it's gonna go. It's a roller coaster. I think like for young people, like they always ask me like, oh, what should I do? Right? What should I do? Like, you know, general questions like that. And I always tell them like, look, do like what you are passionate first. Like if you're a designer, then just do designing. If you're a coder, like do coding. If you're good in sales and marketing, do that to start as a beginning. But I always say that in life, doors are going to open and opportunities are going to be presented to you that you do not expect, right? So you take my life, for example. I joined when I joined Workshare like 15 years ago now. Like I was pre-sales. I've always been pre-sales. I knew how to demo products. Like that was what I did, and that was what I was hired to do, right? And then all of a sudden, my manager at the time, his name was Matthew, really great guy. Like I really respect him. He left, and the door opened, and it was presented to me, and it wasn't perfect, but I took it, and by taking it, I met you. I met all the resellers across the region, and I just took it for what it is, and I worked at it as hard as I could, right? So when you're young, like all these doors are going to open to you. And as I said, if you do an opportunity well, it will lead to more opportunity, no matter how small this opportunity is. It could be just a project. It might not be a big door. It might be just a small thing, right? But I would say just take everything that is presented to you because you don't know where you're going to end up. Because like you think you're going to end up like on the moon, but you might end up in Mars, right? Which is okay. Like you're on a planet, like it's still a good planet. Like you don't know where things are going to lead because humans by nature cannot predict the future. They're very bad. It's very obvious. No one predicted COVID. No one can predict the future. You can only control like what you have in front of you right now. And that's what I tell young people. I say, have a plan, think about what you want to do. Like don't just do whatever, like do have some type of plan, but also like have the flexibility to change that plan. Because like as Mike Tyson said, right, a plan is good until you get punched in the face, and then that their plan is useless. And I think that what you might want right now might be very different to what you might want later in life. And you shouldn't close any door. You shouldn't like burn any bridges. And you should also just enjoy the journey because too many people they get caught up in like I need to make X amount of dollars and like they'll say, oh, I'll be happy once I build the next Facebook. But in reality, right, it's not about how much money you make or even how much value you add to this world. It's what's going to make you happy is like what you become at the end. And that's what I tell people, and that's my advice I would give to them.
Wow, beautiful. So now let's go to the next round and understand Ryan as a person. Tell us
Okay.
about your family and your formative years.
So I grew up like in Indonesia, in Jakarta, right? Southeast Asia. My parents were Filipino. They're both expats at the time. And I went to like international school there. So in international school, these are all expats. Like I didn't know at the time, but like I would be going to school with like, you know, the son of the United Nations ambassador or Sri Lanka or India or whoever. I don't know. We're all kids, right? Like, but these are the people that go to the school, right? It's like basically a school for expats. And it was highly American. Like all the teachers were American, the curriculum was American, and I really got like a good dose of Americana. And that's why I talk like this today. It's still from that school. And then when I was 14, 15, my family, my parents decided to move to Sydney, Australia for, you know, better life and everything. And I'm very grateful for that. And, you know, that's where I've been. I finished high school here. I did university here. When I went to university, I thought I was going to become an engineer until I went to uni. And like I said, life doesn't always work out the way it does. I went to uni. I couldn't handle the maths and physics. I love math and physics, like in high school, don't get me wrong. But when I went to uni, I couldn't handle it, right? So then I ended up going, oh, okay, maybe I'll do computer science. Even that, I was so. Like I wasn't the best at computer science. I wasn't very good at coding. Like, and then like my parents are both accountants and they said, oh, why don't you do accounting as well? Just, it's going to be useful. I go, yeah, okay, whatever. So I did like a double degree in accounting and computers. And when I left uni, I thought I was going to become an accountant. So I applied to like Ernest and Young, Price Waterhouse, you know, all these accounting firms, like the ones like most graduates want to go into, and they'll probably go into like the tax department and, you know, they build their way up from there. And then one day, like I remember like my mom saw this ad in the newspaper back in the day when we used to like have newspapers, and there was an ad for a graduate program, and it was like it was for Oracle, like the Oracle, the software company, and they were looking for grads. So I thought, all right, we'll just apply. And I mean, to cut the story short, like I got in out of like 10 graduates or something in Australia. So I got into that program, and IT just started from there. Really, I learned how from there. I learned like I had very good mentors. I think that gave me a very good start in how the IT software industry worked. And then from there, like we eventually moved into like a smaller company that did like online ERP. It was NetSuite at the time, but it was an independent company then. It wasn't bought by Oracle. And then one thing led to another. I ended up in Workshare doing that for 11 years, met you, and then COVID hit. I took a break. And then someone tapped me on the shoulder, actually, my friend David, who is a legal tech recruiter. And like he said, oh, there's an opening for like a customer success manager in Immediation. Why don't you just go in and have a chat, and it might be good for you? And here I am today. And like I said, one thing leads to another, and you never know what door is going to open and where it's going to lead you.
Wow, beautiful. So now let's go memory down the lane. Your experience at McQuaid Graduate School of Management. How did it help you in your current career?
I think Macquarie Graduate School gave me like a very good framework in how to do particular things. Like there were a few subjects that really struck out. So the first subject was like accounting. So although like I did accounting in university, like it was just interesting to study it again like a lot later in life, because like I really got an appreciation around the numbers, and business at the end of the day is numbers, and accounting is a language of business. So I thought that was very useful. And I had a very good lecturer that like explained it very, very simple. Um, and I also think that the other two subjects that come to mind and is very useful that I think today in my current role is like I studied a subject called consumer behavior. So how people buy things, right? Whether they be businesses or consumers like you and me in the supermarket. I thought that was interesting, and just the theory behind it and the rationale and why people do particular things. And the other thing I thought that was very useful, especially around strategy, is like there was a subject there called strategic marketing. And the lecturer, I think she came from like Boston Consulting Group or something, but I think like the way she explained it, marketing, so she didn't explain like all the tactical stuff. She explained it from a high level strategic point of view, and like she provided a framework around it. And I still remember like the one message I got out of that class is like in marketing, what you have to do is you have to answer one question, right? And that one question is like, whom are you to what? So that basically it basically narrows down like what you mean to a particular market. And that really struck with me. And I still sometimes like I've recorded those lectures. Like this was a long time ago now, but sometimes I do listen to parts of it because it was just that good. And sometimes like I get something out of it today that I didn't pick up like when I was doing the course, right? So that's how I think like that Macquarie Graduate School like helped me in my current position.
Wow, beautiful. So, Ryan, how do you unwind after a long day of work? Any favorite rituals or hobbies you follow?
I normally train at night, so I do gymnastics, right? So normally at night, like I train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I try to cut it down, but it's normally like 2 hours, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, about now, like 7:30 to 9:30. And then on the weekend as well. So I basically have 2 days where I don't do training, and every other day I train. And to me, like that is a little bit like unwinding, right? Because I find that like when you're moving, like that is what your body is designed to do. And I find that like similar to business, like when you go to gymnastics, like you kind of need discipline to turn up every day because it's so hard. Like it's just too hard, right? I mean, not that it's impossible, like, but you just have to do the things that are unnatural and do the things that you don't like. And for me, like when I unwind, I don't like to think about things because I'm always thinking. And when I'm like on the gymnastics floor, on the blue mat, we call it, no one cares who you are, like on your business card. You can't fake like what you can and can't do. It's very obvious. It's either you put in the work or you can't. You can't fake anything. And I feel like what you put in is what you get out. And generally, when I'm doing that, I don't think about anything else. Like if you think about it, when you're upside down in the air, you generally don't think about many things other than like initially, like, I hope I don't die and crack my head. Like that's the first thing you think, right? But eventually it gets easier and easier. But other than that, like the other thing I do to unwind that is less like intense, right? I like to read. Like I know you have like a thing on LinkedIn where you listed like your top 5 books for last year, and I think they're all great books. I love all of them. I especially like audiobooks because I'm always in the car. So I just find that it's a good use of time. I have like so many books on Audible, and sometimes I also have like the same book in hard copy because I read it in hard copy and then I go to the car and sometimes I listen to it again because like that's how it gets ingrained in your mind, I feel, right? And sometimes I like to listen to the author talk to me because it's like they're talking to you. And the other thing I've done recently, and it was more during COVID, is like I don't know if you listen to like the Tim another podcast, but the Tim Ferriss podcast where they interview like performers, CEOs, business people, and everyone who's like an expert in the field. And one reoccurring thing that I hear that they say they do is some type of meditation, right? So whether it be like going for a walk or just meditating, like just clearing your mind, just you and your own thoughts, no noise. You're separating like all this, the signal from the noise, and just like being present. Because I think that as a leader, or even as a person, right? I think we're too bombarded with too many things. Like especially these days, it's like so much social media, so much everything. Like consumerism has like gone berserk, right? And I think what we need to do, and what I try to do, is at the end of the day, or even at the beginning of the day, I try to quiet my mind so that I can clear it and focus on like what I need to do today. Because sometimes like we think of our problems like all the time, and I really believe like our subconscious mind is always working in the background. But I think like, it's like if you think about it too much, if you force it too much, it's like holding sand in your hand. Like if you hold this too much, the sand will start to seep down like your hand, right? It's just if you grasp it too tight. So I think you need to let your subconscious mind kind of do its thing. And the only way to do that, I believe, is through some type of calming, some type of meditation. So you can see things for how it really is, and you can also just separate the signal from the noise and just focus on like what needs to be done. Never mind like what's going to happen tomorrow. Never mind what happened yesterday. Like you just need to focus on what needs to be done today, right now. And that's one of the relaxation things I try to do as well, other than all the other stuff I have going on.
Wow, beautiful. So, Ryan, can you share a fun or surprising fact about yourself that most people don't know?
So when I was like in growing up, right, in high school or middle school or whatever you want to call it, like I was a very shy kid. I did not like to talk. I just kept to myself. I was just very introverted, and I'm today. I'm still that. You're always like that kid when you were growing up, and today I still am very introverted, right? But bit better. Like, and what I used to do, like when I was growing up, I wasn't really into sports. That was later in life, and I didn't have a lot of friends, but I loved to play guitar, right? I used to play guitar for days, not hours, like days. I used to like when I was growing up, like this is early 90s, mid 90s, like everyone was into like rock or grunge rock or whatever you want to call it. And I used to love playing the guitar, like the classic guitar, electric guitar, whatever guitar. And like I think like by doing that, like I wanted to become a rock star when I grow up because I wanted to become a guitarist, right? Like all my idols. And like although I didn't talk a lot, like people knew, hey, Ryan likes to play the guitar. Why don't we jam with him? Like, let's just play guitar. And like through guitar, like through playing instruments, like I was able to make like all these friends that I would have never, like these social circles that I would never have associated myself with. And I think like that's something like no one has ever doesn't not many people know, right? So people might know me for like my work, people might know me for like I don't know other things, but they don't realize like when they come to my house I have like six guitars like lying around in every single room, right? I love guitars. Like I just think it's just a beautiful instrument. I always wanted to be a rock star. I think I am a rock star in some respect, but like that's something that people and something interesting that I don't think people know about me.
So, Ryan, your next interesting uh, of learning languages. You have learned Japanese and Chinese. What got you interested in learning international languages and how has it helped you in your work?
I've always been interested in languages. Like when you watch like James Bond, right, the movie, and then you see him like go to these different countries and he like talks different languages. I've always been wow, that's so cool. Like I wish I could talk like 5 languages. So I think like that really stuck in my mind, and the fact that I've always been around like different nationalities, like since I was growing up, like in Indonesia, obviously I could speak English, I could speak Indonesian, Bahasa, I could speak a bit of Tagalog, Filipino, because that's my parents are Filipino. And then I thought, oh, okay, Japanese is cool. Like, let's do Japanese. So I did that in high school. And I've always been interested in Japan and all those things. And then obviously like Chinese, like I, I to be honest, like I always like Chinese food and I always like going to Chinese restaurant and I go, how cool is it to like just be ordered in Chinese? That's an initial use case, right? That's the initial reason. It's a bit silly, but that was the reason. And then at that time, like I think it was 2007, 2008, like China was booming. Like they just had the Olympics and then everyone was trying to do business to China with China. And I thought, yeah, let's learn Mandarin. Let's try it, right? Like, I think it'd be useful, like one day, and that's really it. And like I just haven't really stopped. Like it's on and off, on and off. Like I wouldn't say I'm like fully fluent, like, but I can have like a normal conversation if we were having like dinner. And sometimes, especially during the workshare days when I would go to all these different countries and we would talk a little bit in Japanese or a little bit in Mandarin, they would go, oh, wow, you can speak Mandarin or you can speak Chinese. And I've always been fascinated by that. I think that it's not like the easiest language, but you know, if you have a reason and you have a drive, like you can do it. It just takes a bit of persistence.
Wow. So, Ryan, do you have a favorite travel destination which you have done work-wise or with family that has left a lasting impression on you?
So I've been to like a lot of different places, Amir. Um, I don't have one place that really sticks out, but like let's say I have two that comes to mind since we're talking about China and Japan, right? So in China, like there was one time where I stayed in China for like almost a month, and I remember like going around China during that time because I was learning Chinese and also going around. And I remember seeing like the Great Wall of China. I thought that was amazing. I remember seeing the Terracotta Warriors. I thought that was amazing. And I remember seeing like the Forbidden City and just how big it is. Like it's massive in Beijing. Like I just remember, wow, how did they build this a long time ago? It must have taken forever, right? And up to today, like those are one of the lasting things in my head of China. I mean, I've been back to China several times since, but like I always remember that part of China because that was just very remarkable. I've been to Japan many times too. There was one time that I went to Japan for 3 weeks to study Japanese, and I went to the island of Hokkaido, so Sapporo, which is a North Island. People normally go there for skiing, right? And I remember like going to Japan. I remember like the snow. I remember just like studying my Japanese, looking at it out the window at a coffee shop. And I remember just the snow falling and it was just so peaceful on the street. And that was one of the like memorable experiences I've ever had um, in Japan, right? And I just remember that to that day. It was just a calming, tranquil experience that you know I'll always remember.
So, Ryan, suppose you have 1 week away from all the gadgets, work. How would you like to spend it?
You know, I was watching this documentary like on the Bill Gates documentary. Like I saw it a long time ago, but I watched it again recently. And he used to like take a week off and just read, right? And I would love to do that. I would just love to turn off all these gadgets, take all my books and audiobooks, because I do audiobooks too, just go to some like remote place, like next to a lake or something. I would bring my guitar, like acoustic guitar, and I would just read. Like it would just be so nice to just read, meditate, and just really have a think about everything, like well, just get away from everything. Sometimes we're just too consumed over everything. And just I'm comfortable with being by myself. That's not the problem. I think I and I just want to I have like so many books I've ordered like that I want to read. I just don't have the time right now. And like if I could just do that, that would be amazing.
Wow. So, Ryan, who has influenced you personally and professionally?
I think so that I had a lot of influencers, right, over the years. I've been very lucky that I've had like people to teach me like different things, right? So I wouldn't say I would have one influencer, but like I think I had many, right? So firstly, like let's just if I narrow it down, let's just narrow it down like to like Workshare because that's where you and I met, right? So in Workshare, I really I learned a lot. I think I spoke about this from working with Andrew. I think that we worked together as a team very well, and I really learned like how to do like the team dynamics and a lot of qualities that I didn't have, I think he had, right? So I learned how to deal with the customer. I learned how to stay calm, how to always be pleasant. Like he was always pleasant on the phone, no matter how stressed he was. And I think when you spoke to him, like during those years, right, you would feel the same. And that's the feedback I got from customers. They go, "Oh, every time we talk to Andrew, it's like he's always happy." I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, maybe I should be like that." So I learned he influenced me a lot. I think Sean as well, like Sean, like the way that he conducts himself in meetings, I used to observe. I used to observe how he would do presentations, but more importantly, like he really cemented the fact that your network is like so important. And I would see how he would like engage in people that he knew before and how he would engage in new people in his network and how he would really use it, not just to his advantage, but just to help everyone. And I thought, wow, that is really powerful. I can learn a lot from that. And I would say I learned a lot from just working with Sean, like it was short, like only 2 years. We traveled Asia a lot, but I learned a lot because just observing how he conducts himself and what he does. So I would say, like, let's narrow it down to those two people for now. There are other people that I learned from, but I would say for this particular point in time, like it was those two.
Wow, beautiful. So, my last one, Ryan, will be a googly one. Describe Ryan in one line.
Consistent. I believe that consistency is everything. Consistency and discipline go hand in hand. I think that sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do, whether that be something work related, whether that be your personal life, whether that be going to training, gymnastics training. No one wants to train every day. You got to be kidding me, right? Even professional athletes don't do that. But I think you also need to be disciplined in business. You need to be able to discipline to execute like what you plan to do. And I think the most important thing about consistency is discipline and discipline, sorry, is you need to do what you say. So I would describe that as me.
Beautiful. Now, let's have some fun, the rapid fire round.
Okay.
Favorite Asian cuisine?
I love Peking duck.
Wow. Your go-to comfort food?
Oh gosh, go to comfort food. Whenever we travel, Andrew and we used to always eat in Subway. Subway, like the sandwich, Subway. That was our comfort food.
Wow. Your favorite Australian cuisine?
I love steak. I love a good steak. I know it's not like 100% Australian, but I do like a good steak on the barbie.
Wow. You're a morning person or night owl?
Bit of both. Depends. They're lately night owl, but I used to be a morning person.
Wow. Wow. One word to describe your leadership style.
Consistent.
Wow. Your favorite music.
Rock.
Your favorite color.
Blue.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. Coffee. We on the coffee
Coffee.
show.
It's coffee conversation. You must have
Yeah.
coffee.
There's a cup. Wow. Best piece of advice received.
Don't worry too much.
Okay. Dream destination place you haven't visited yet.
I'd love to go to Antarctica.
Wow. So you did well. And here's your book, your gift, which we autograph and send to you.
Oh,
So,
wow.
friends,
Thank you.
it was a lovely conversation, meeting with an old friend, old acquaintance, and now close to my heart. And we would meet soon with uh, having real coffee. So, friends, it was a lovely conversation how Ryan transitioned himself from customer success to being a CEO of a legal tech company, Immediation. So, as you said, when opportunity knocks, you take it, build with it, grow with it, and many more doors will open for you. So, this episode is all for who wants to transition. This episode, check up how he took up all the opportunities and now where he is leading a legal tech startup, Immediation in ADR, which is also very exciting, leading with strategy, innovation, and growth. So, this episode is all for tech startup and whoever wants to in their journey when opportunity turns up, grab it and don't think too much, then all those opportunities will go away. So, like this, inspiring stories, there are 350 plus Coffee Corner episodes at our YouTube channel. Subscribe, watch, relate, inspire. And if you want to be featured like Ryan, you can visit our LinkedIn company page, the Emerging India Forum. DM, our team will connect with you and invite you to have an engaging conversation over a cup of coffee. So, take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir.